Hey, so we are live. Who is that lady with the hair pulled back looking kind of weird? I don't know. But the light is shining, it's giving the glare. So, I don't know. How are you guys doing this afternoon? It is 3:31 p.m., January 17th, 2019. And again, I'm on here sharing stories with the kids and adults. And I do not own the rights to any of the books that I will be reading to you. I will, however, read something that I've written myself. I'm adjusting the volume on here. So if you're wondering, like, what is she frowning at? Well, I'm fighting a head cold. I think is what it is because my head hurts behind the eyes. And I'm trying to make sure the volume is up because I'm soft spoken. I want to make sure that you can hear me. I do have a speech impediment in which I do talk fast because I want to make sure I get the thoughts out. And if I slow it down, I will stumble. So I apologize for that. So earlier this afternoon, I read The Cat in the Hat. I hope you liked it. I like change my voice to make it fun. So I will be doing that in some of the other books because I haven't read them in a while, so it's kind of new to me to read them again for you. And also the other reason why I'm really doing this as well is because I want to leave something like a legacy for my children. So once I'm gone, or God forbid if something happens to me too soon, they have something for themselves that they can reflect on and say, hey, there's my mom. And, they can talk. Well, they can watch the videos and hear me reading stories that I used to read to them when they were little. So, and then maybe their kids can watch it too. And I say, hi, grandkids, or whatever you guys are calling the kids nowadays, or I'm your grandmother, or I will be your grandmother once you're born, if I'm here or gone afterwards. I can't believe I'm saying that, grandmother. I'm still a mom, but grandmother, oh my God. So my hair has different colors shine to it. So in this lighting, it looks really as it is. It is what it is. Judge me or judge yourself first before you judge me. Okay, so I'm going to get started on our reading. What was I doing? I had a book. Berenstain Bears, He Bear, She Bear, The Cat in the Hat. And just to recap on that, kids, you can be anything that you want to be as long as you put your mind to it and make sure it's something positive that's going to help humanity and animals, basically help the world do good. And The Cat in the Hat. Now, if your parents are away or whoever's watching you, that's your guardian. If there's no adult in the house, don't let anybody in that shouldn't be there. Even if it's a cat with a hat, carrying a tall umbrella with a big red box with a hook on it. You never know what you're letting in. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh my God. Well, they look like a nanny. Well, did your mom say that they're hiring a nanny? I don't mean Mary Poppins either. No, don't do that. So I'm reaching for one of two books since I'm live streaming. I don't edit. So in advance, I apologize for offending anyone that's right, left, upside down, turned around, kind of way, any kind of political standpoint that you might have. It's my channel and I'm here for my kids. And if your kids are enjoying it, then so be it. And again, I do not own the rights to any of the books that I'm reading because I did buy these books. They are mine because in my possession, I paid for them. But I'm sharing them because I want to make sure that my children and their children's children have someone to read a story to them. And since my presence may or may not be there in the future, I want to make sure that they have something of an essence of me left behind for them to enjoy, make fun of whoever, it is what it is. So the options are The Winds in the Willows or The Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing by Judy Blume. This one is my book. I think I have multiple because I think I got Dominic one. By the author of Then Again, Maybe I Won't, Adele Yearling book. I think I might read Judy Blume. This is a long book, and I try to get all of the stories I read done in an hour or less. I read my book. And children, try not to deface your books. I wanted to make sure that my friends knew it was my book because I don't want them to take it. Because I treasured books because they take you on adventures. When You Can't Go. I don't know. I'm torn. The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame, or The Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. How many pages is this is how many pages? Which one's thinner? And they have pictures too. Well, I guess since no one's live with me because they're still in school, as you should be, or just getting out of school until you get home, I will just have to choose which one I don't have to squint to see. I mean, I can see it, but then I'm fighting a head cold. I believe that's what it is, and my head hurts. And I want to make sure I give all my best effort to have you enjoy a reading with me. A random reading with, my name is Pearl Diane. Hi, nice to meet you. How you doing? Originally from Jersey. I'm a Jersey girl. And I'm going to go with Wind in the Willows. Sorry, Judy Blue. Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. I might read you after I read this one. I wanted to read the smaller books because I wanted to have 30-minute segments, but this one might turn a bit longer. And yes, my intro is up to 9 minutes sometimes, or 10, because I want to give time, because I'm live streaming. I'm not editing anything. So hopefully whatever comes out of my mouth is not offensive to anyone, not even to myself. I might crunch on a piece of ice or drink ice water in front of you. This comes from a Ninja blender. The cup. My mom made quiche. I didn't mention that. She made quiche. I just had some quiche. It's very good. No mushrooms. Don't do the mushrooms thing. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my township because I like to play little games on my phone. Just a little bit tidbit about me while I'm randomly getting ready and set up. I hail from Jersey. I won't say which little small town. I might later on. I don't know. It's kind of personal. Ooh, Secure Team 10 has nationwide happening as of 3:26 p.m. Let's take a look. I do not own the rights to this. This is Secure Team. Hi, Tyler. If you can see, I have you on here. Oh, it's a commercial. Because I still have time before I do my intro ends. So I talk a lot. I don't know, maybe more so when I get nervous. If you can hear on my headset. This is Secure Team 10. I've been following them on YouTube since they started. They talk about just about anything paranormal, UFO things. Because I'm into sci-fi, so yeah. So you guys didn't catch it. I did my very first nationwide happening cover-up. My very first real live. I don't know if you hear it. It lasted about an hour and a half. And as you can think, for someone's very first live stream, it was terrible. It was about 3 a.m. I was struggling to figure out how the chat works. Skull candy. I thought it went really well, and people seemed to enjoy being able to talk, and it was really awesome to interact with all of you. But again, if you haven't checked that out, visit the link down below, because we covered a lot of strange and interesting topics in it. So a few different stories to cover today. So I like to watch sci-fi stuff. Quick is in regards to this massive spinning disc of ice that formed in the middle of this river in Maine. And it's so perfect and beautiful. I mean, from directly above, it almost looks like the moon. However, from on the ground, I'm going to stop there because we are now going into my 9 minutes. And you can check that out on YouTube. It's called Secure Team 10 with a little black circle with a little alien in it. Secure Team 10, lowercase, the numerical 10. Wow, he hit over 2 million subscribers. Go Tyler. Yeah, so I've been following him since he started. So I'm really happy for him. And then when you go to their link, you can Portsmouth, Ohio. Cool. Okay. You can look at his information. It's all there. But that was a highlight of what was happening. So, okay. So let's get started. It's now 9:31 and I'm past the time. The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This is a junior classics for young readers. The previous books, Dr. Seuss and Bear Sing Bears, those are beginning readers. And now I'm reading junior classics for young readers. Okay. And how did I get started in reading? My grandmother was a teacher and made sure I read. And then my favorite Was it third grade? Fourth grade teacher. My fourth grade teacher, I believe, is Mrs. Montgomery. Yes. Um, in in Jersey. She read James and the Giant Peach to our class, and I fell in love with reading more so when the way she read it, because she read it with heart and warmth, and I really enjoyed the story. She made it alive, if that makes sense. So when they came out with the movie, I was like, awesome. And then when I had my first son, I've always wanted to get that book. It took me years to find the hardbound copy of that book after I had my first son, Dominic, and then in 91. And then a few years later, they came out with the movie, and then the book came out again, like the hardbound. So I have that on my shelf. I may read that later on for you guys, for your enjoyment. And if I'm squinching because I'm in a little bit pain, I do apologize. I'm going to try to work through it and not complain so much. Don't want to complain on live TV. I feel weird without a hat. I put my hair up just to see how it looks up. I was messing with it. I'm putting it back down. Excuse me. Putting it back down real quick so I can be comfortable. There we go. Whew, goodness. It's a little better. Okay. So reading The Wind in the Willows. Am I nervous or what? Yes, I am. Condensed and adapted by Clay Stafford, illustrated by Nick Price, cover illustrated by Laura Fernandez, Rick Jacobson, Dalmatian Press. And I have to give credit where due when I read a book, because it is important that you understand and know about the book before it's just being read to you. Okay. On the back side, it says, The Wind in the Willows is more than a delightful tale of mole, ratty, badger, and toad, life along the riverbank, and adventures in the wild wood. It is a tale of home and heart. It is a tale of true friendship and courage. It is a tale of gusto and glory. And it is a tale of the wonderful wonder of life. Excuse me. Oh, ages 7 and up. Okay. Oh, what's this? Made in the USA. It was made in the USA. I don't owe rights to any of the songs I'm singing because I'm making up some tunes to go with it. Copyright. Shh. I do not own the rights to anything that I'm reading or singing or humming to you. And I'm about to get started because I'm behind schedule. And I'm going to read the entire book to you as it should be read. And I'm going to, for the first time ever since I've started this thing, reading online, is gather my reading glasses. And no, I am not, I'm not being endorsed by them, but these are pretty cool. If you ever need glasses or reading glasses, the frames are really nice. I have to go get the new ones again. I know how to get my eyes checked so I get headaches. Okay, kids. This is the foreword in the beginning of the book. There's, in these thicker books, other than the regular small books, it's called a foreword. Again, if you've been watching the videos, please have a thesaurus book out and ready and a dictionary for words that you may not understand or phrases, because I want to make sure that I can try to help you understand while I'm reading, but then at the same time, I want to keep going with the story. So I will try and do my best not to interrupt the story in between, other than to show the illustrations, which are the pictures. But then again, somewhere near, I might stop and say, hey, side note, can you relate to the story so far? Or are you following, or do you understand what's being read to you? So please like, unlike, comment, any comments or suggestions that you might have. Keep it clean, keep it clear, concise, more than me, hopefully. And again, count how many times I say because that is so not nice to keep saying a lot when you're speaking. It makes it sound like you don't know what you're talking about sometimes. But it is a space filler, so make sure you stay in school to educate yourself more than enough, where you can have more words to say. Oh my, do we want to keep talking that much? Evidently we do. So let's try on a little intelligence for us geeky folks. What is that? a glare on the glasses. How dare they? Do I look distinguished enough or more like a mom or a grandmom? Sorry, I have the shirt on. It's just, it looks weird when it's all buttoned up on me like that. There we go, guys. Okay, let's get started. Yeah, prim and proper, because we're reading. We are reading a book. And here we go. And don't mind me, my voice will change here and there, because that's how I read. And I get excited in reading the book. Oh, did I scratch up my computer? I sure did. I want to make sure that I bring the book to life. And here we are. And I can't edit this. Oh, okay. It's live. Forward. A note to the reader. A classic story rests in your hands. The characters are famous. The tale is timeless. This junior classic edition of The Wind in the Willows has been carefully condensed and adapted from the original version, which you really must read when you're ready for every detail. Everybody's a critic. Scrappy! Shh! That's my little dog. He's outside the window. Yes, kids, if you're just watching, I have a hanging tooth like the superheroes on Green Lantern. The guy in the green. No, not the Green Lantern, but the, okay, when you watch the movie, the other guy. Yeah. Okay. This makes me look like I have a big nose. Okay, Scrappy Doo. Sorry, guys. Oh, he's so sad. Okay. He's upset because I had to make him stay outside. It's not raining right now, so he'll be okay. Whew. All right. Okay, so we're back to okay, make sure you read the book in full detail. Okay, great. We kept the well-known phrases for you. We kept Kenneth Graham's style, and we kept the important imagery and heart of the tale. So literature is terrific fun. It encourages rewind. I'm talking too fast for me. Literature is terrific fun. It encourages you to think. It helps you dream. It is full of heroes and villains, suspense and humor, adventure and wonder and new ideas. It introduces you to writers who reach out across time to say, do you want to hear a story I wrote? Curl up and enjoy. So again, I'm reading this story as it is, and I haven't worn glasses in a while, so the words are bigger. So I'm not squinting and looking weird. This has 12 chapters. I know, since I've talked so much already up to this point, I don't know if I'm going to have much time. I might have to pause this and start over to another live stream. And I think I might do that. So that way you guys can benefit from having the story. It's 12 chapters. That's not 12 minutes. That's like, well, we'll see. Okay, I hope you're still with me. If not, then I'm so sorry. Okay, you don't like me anymore. Oh, okay, great. So let's read this. The contents. We have chapter 1, the riverbank. Chapter 2, the open road. Chapter 3, the wildwood. Chapter 4, Badger's home. Chapter 5, Home Sweet Home. Chapter 6, Mr. Toad. Chapter 7, the protector of small creatures. Chapter 8, Toad's adventures. Chapter 9, Wanderers All. 10, which is chapter 10, the further adventures of Toad. Chapter 11, the fall of Toad Hall. Ooh. Chapter 12, the return of Toad. And then the last about the author on page 180. So this is a smaller version. And I believe we have the hardbound copy of the bigger version somewhere in the house amongst our bookshelves. So here it goes. And again, I'm one of those readers that will read the pages of the book as it should be, so that way you get the best idea of what's going on, other than just jumping into the story. Characters. Mole. Molly, a rather shy fellow who leaves his underground home to stay with Ratty on the riverbank. Water Rat, named Ratty, a friendly riverbanker who enjoys boating, good company, and picnic lunches. Toad, a rich, jolly fellow who tends to brag and go overboard when it comes to boats, gypsy wagons, and fast motor cars. Badger, a wise, quiet fellow in the wildwood who prefers to stay away from society but always takes care of his friends. Otter, another friend from Riverbank. Portly, Otter's young son who wanders off. The hedgehogs, not like Sonic. Two agreeable young lads who stop in at Badger's house. The Toot Toot, the motor car that fascinates Toad and fills him with glee. Jailer's daughter, the young lady who has a soft spot for Toad and helps him escape from jail. Washerwoman, the stout woman who switches clothes with Toad so he can be disguised as the washerwoman. Engine driver, the train engineer who helps Toad escape the law. Barge woman, the barge driver who recognizes Toad for the fool he is. Gypsy, a traveling man who agrees to sell a horse to Toad. Weasels, stoats, and ferrets. Wily, thieving fellows from the wildwood who take over Toad Hall. Those are the characters. The Wind in the Willows. Ready? Okay. If this cuts off before I get finished with a few of the chapters, I'll continue on another live stream, okay? Chapter 1. The Riverbank. The mole had been working very hard and all morning spring cleaning his little home, first with brooms, then with rags, then with a brush and a pail of whitewash. Spring was moving in the air above, filtering down even to his dark little house beneath the soil. It was no wonder, then, that he suddenly flung down his brush and said, "Hang spring cleaning!" Something in the air above was calling to him. He hurried out of the house, through a steep little tunnel, muttering, "Up we go!" till at last, pop, his snout came out into the sunlight, and he found himself rolling in the warm meadow. "This is fine," he said to himself. "Better than whitewashing." He scampered across the sunny meadow till he reached the hedge on the far side. It all seemed too good to be true. Hither and thither, through the meadows, he rambled busily, finding birds, buildings, flowers, budding leaves, thrusting. And instead of feeling badly for not doing his work, he somehow felt jolly. After all, the best part of a day off is not so much resting yourself, but to see everyone else busy working. He thought his happiness was complete when suddenly he stood by the edge of a flowing, sparkling river. He'd never seen a river before. He sat down, enchanted. A dark hole in the opposite bank just above the water's edge caught his eye. Something bright twinkled down into the heart of it. Then, as he looked, it winked at him, and so declared itself to be an eye. A small face appeared. A brown face with whiskers. A round face with a twinkle in its eye. With small, neat ears and thick, silky hair. It was the water rat. The two animals stood and eyed each other. "Hello, Mole," said the water rat. "Hello, Rat," said the mole. You see that okay? I apologize for Scrappy. "Would you like to come over?" said the rat. "Oh, it's all very well to talk," said the mole, from across the flowing river. The rat said nothing, but untied its rope and pulled on it, and then lightly stepped into a little blue boat. It was just the size for two animals. The rat rowed rapidly across, tied up the boat, and held out a paw to Mole. Soon the mole found himself actually seated in the back of a real boat. "This has been a wonderful day," said the mole. "Do you know, I've never been in a boat before." What? Cried the rat, open mouthed. It's the only thing. Believe me, my young friend, there is nothing, absolutely nothing, like simply messing about in boats. Simply messing, he went on dreamily, messing about in boats. Look ahead, rat, cried the mole suddenly. It was too late. The boat struck the opposite bank full force. The rat landed on his back at the bottom of the boat, his heels in the air. He picked himself up with a pleasant laugh. Yes, there's nothing like a day in a boat. Look here. If you got no other plans this morning, supposing we drop down the river together and have a long day of it. The mole wiggled his toes and leaned back on the cushions. What a day I'm having, he said. Let us start at once. Hold on a minute. The rat slipped into the hole in the bank and returned with a lunch basket. What's inside? Asked the mole. A picnic. There's cold chicken, replied the rat. Cold ham pickles, rolls, lemonade, ginger ale. Oh, stop, cried the mole. This is too much. You must think me very rude, but all this is just so new to me. So this is a river? The river, corrected the rat as he rowed. It's my world, and I don't want any other. But isn't it a bit dull at times? The mole asked, dragging a paw in the water. Just you, the river, and no one else to pass a word with? Dull? Asked the rat patiently. Never. The bank is so crowded nowadays that many people are moving away altogether. And all day long, there's always someone wanting you to do something. What lies over there? Asked the mole, waving a paw toward a woodland that darkly framed the water meadows on one side of the river. Oh, that's just the wildwood, said the rat. We riverbankers don't go there. But in a moment, I'm going to send Scrappy. Aren't they very nice people in there? Asked the mole a bit nervously. Well, replied the rat, let me see. The squirrels are all right, and the rabbits, some of them, and then there's Badger. Dear old Badger. Of course, there are others, weasels and stoats and foxes. They are all right in their way, but you can't really trust them, and that's a fact. And beyond the wildwood? Asked the mole. Beyond the wildwood comes the wide world, said the rat. I've never been there, and I'm never going. Neither will you, if you've got any sense. Now then, let's have lunch. The rat brought the boat alongside the bank, tied the boat, and helped Mole safely ashore. Mole excitedly shook out the tablecloth and arranged the lunch, saying, Oh my, oh my! After they had eaten a little, rat asked the mole, What are you looking at? I am looking, said the mole, at a streak of bubbles traveling along the surface of the water. A broad, glistening nose showed itself above the bank, and the otter hauled himself out. Greedy beggars, he said. Why didn't you invite me, Ratty? This was an unplanned event, explained the rat. By the way, my friend Mr. Mole, pleased to meet you, I'm sure, said the otter. There was a rustle behind them, coming from a hedge, and a stripy head with high shoulders behind it peered out at them. Come on, old Badger, shouted the rat. The badger turned his back and disappeared. That's just the sort of fellow he is, said the rat, disappointed. Stays to himself. Well, tell us, otter, who was out on the river? Toad's out for one, replied the otter. In his new wager boat. New outfit, new everything. The two looked at each other and laughed. First he took to sailing, said the rat. Then it was flat-bottom boats. Last year it was houseboating. Now a wager boat. He gets tired of one thing and starts something new. No stability, remarked the otter wisely. Just then a wager boat flashed into view. The rower, a short, stout fellow, splashed badly and rocked a good deal. The rat stood up and called to him, but Toad, for it was he, shook his head. He'll be out of the boat in a minute, said Rat. The otter chuckled and then slipped away. I suppose we ought to be moving on, said the rat. I wonder which of us had better pack the lunch basket. Oh, please let me, said the mole, which he did. The afternoon sun was getting low as the rat rode gently homeward, murmuring poetry things over to himself. The mole shouted with delight, Ratty, please, I want to row. Wait till you've had a few lessons. The mole, without comment, jumped up and grabbed the oars. The rat was taken by surprise and fell backward off his seat with his legs in the air for the second time. Stop it, you silly fruitcake, cried the rat. You'll have us over. The mole flung the oars back and missed the water altogether. His legs flew up and he found himself lying on the top of the upended rat. Then over went the boat. Oh my, how cold the water was to Mole. Oh, how very wet it felt. It sang in his ears as he went down, down. Then a firm paw gripped him by the back of his neck. The rat pulled the helpless animal to shore, hauled him out, and set him down on the bank, a squashy, pulpy lump of misery. The rat rubbed the mole down a bit and laughed, saying, Now then, good fellow, trot up and down the bank as hard as you can till you're warm and dry again, while I dive for the basket. When Rat had brought everything up, the mole took his seat in the back of the boat. Ratty, I'm so sorry. Will you let things go on as before? What's a little wet to a water rat? Responded the rat. I really think you would enjoy visiting with me for a time. My home is plain, but I could teach you to row and to swim. Soon you'll be as handy as we river bankers. The mole humbly accepted. When they got to the rat's home, the rat told the mole river stories till supper time. But very shortly afterward, a terribly sleepy mole had to be led upstairs to the guest bedroom, where he soon fell fast asleep. This day was only the first of many similar ones for Mole. As spring and summer moved on, he learned to swim and to row. And with his ear to the river reeds, he often could hear what the wind whispered among them. Chapter 2. The Open Road. Ratty, said the mole suddenly one bright summer morning, I want to ask a favor. The rat was sitting on the riverbank singing a little song. He had just written it, so he was quite delighted with it. Since early morning, he had been swimming in the river with his friends, the ducks. And when the ducks stood on their heads, suddenly, as ducks will, he would dive down and tickle their necks, just under where their chins would be if ducks had chins. The ducks would come to the surface, spluttering, shaking their feathers at him. So now that rat sat on the river bank in the sun, singing his song, which he called Duck's Ditty. Can you see that? Let's see if we can sing this, okay? All along the backwater, through the rushes tall, ducks are dabbling up tails all. Ducks' tails, drakes' tails, yellow feet a quiver, yellow bills all out of sight, busy in the river. Slushy green undergrowth where the fish swim. Here we keep our pantry cool and full in them. Everyone for what he likes. We like to be heads down, tails up, dabbling free. High in the blue above, hawks sail and call. We are down a dabbling, up tails all. I don't know what I don't know that I think so very much of that little song, said the mole slowly. But what I wanted to ask you was, won't you take me to call on Mr. Toad? But of course, let's go out. Let's get the boat out. And they were off. The mole, growing a rat, settled at the back. Rounding a bend in the river, they came in sight of a handsome old house of ancient red brick with well-kept lawns. There's Toad Hall, said the rat. Toad is rather rich, you know, but very friendly, not too clever, and he does tend to boast. But he's a fine fellow. Since he's given up boating, I can't wait to learn his new fad. Hooray! Toad cried, jumping up from his chair on seeing them. This is splendid! He shook his paws warmly and danced about them, without waiting to be introduced to the mole. Delightful residence, remarked the mole. Finest house on the river, boasted Toad. The rat nudged the mole. Toad saw him do it and turned very red. There was silence. Then Toad burst out laughing. All right, Ratty, that's just my way. But now you've got to help me. With your rowing, I suppose, said the rat. Oh, there we go. Oh, pooh, boating, said Toad in great disgust. Excuse me. Ow, itch. Sheer waste of time. That's what that is. No, I've found the real thing to do with my life. Come see. He led the way to the stable yard. There sat a shiny new gypsy wagon, brightly painted yellow. There's real life for you, cried the Toad. Life on the open road, through wilderness and towns, the whole world before you. The finest camper ever built. Planned it all myself, I did, with fold-up beds, a table, and food. We'll have everything we need when we make our start this afternoon. I beg your pardon, said the rat slowly. Now, dear good old Ratty, said Toad, don't be sniffy. You know you've got to come. I'm not coming, and that's flat, said the rat. I'll stick to my river, and Mole's going to stick with me and do as I do, aren't you, Mole? Of course I am, said the loyal Mole. All the same, it sounds as if it might have been, well... The rat saw what was passing in the mole's mind. Toad watched both of them closely. Come along and have some lunch, Toad said, and we'll talk it over. Of course, I don't really care. I only want to give pleasure to you fellows. Live for others, that's my motto. Oops, there we are. That's the yellow wagon. During lunch, Toad was his jolly self, talking of the joys of life on the road, and somehow the gypsy wagon adventure became a settled thing. The happy Toad let his friends round up the old gray horse while he loaded hay in the wagon. Then they set off, all talking at once. It was a golden afternoon. Birds whistled. Travelers called out, "Good day!" Waving rabbits said, "Oh my, oh my!" Late that night, miles from home, Toad climbed into bed and said, "This is the real life for a gentleman. You talk about your old river?" "I don't talk about my river," replied the rat, "but I think about it," he said sadly, "all the time." The mole whispered, "I'll do whatever you like, Ratty. Shall we run off in the morning and go back to our dear old hole on the river?" "No, no," whispered the rat. "I should stick by Toad. It wouldn't be safe for him alone. This trip won't last long. His fads never do. Good night." And indeed, the trip did not last long. The Toad slept soundly well into the next morning. The rat fed the horse, lit a fire, cleaned the dishes, and got things ready for breakfast. The mole hiked off to the nearest village for milk and eggs that Toad had forgotten to pack. By the time Toad awoke to eat the breakfast, the hard work had all been done. He stretched and groaned. "This is the gentleman's life." They had a pleasant ramble that day over hills and along country lanes. That afternoon, they came on the high road, and there disaster struck. They were strolling down the road when from far behind them they heard a faint hum like the buzz of a bee. A small cloud of dust was approaching quickly. From out of the dust, a toot toot sound called out. In an instant, a blast of wind and a whirl of sound made them jump. A magnificent motor car with a driver hugging the wheel flung a blinding cloud of dust, then disappeared, a far-off bee once more. The horse reared in fright. The gypsy wagon teetered. And then that yellow wagon, their pride and joy, collapsed into the ditch. Rat. The rat danced in the road, shaking his fist. You villains! I'll report you! You road hogs! There's the motor car. But Toad just sat down on the dusty road, stared blankly, and murmured, toot toot. The mole managed to quiet the horse, which took some time. But the wrecked wagon was indeed a sorry sight, panels and windows smashed, axles hopelessly bent, one wheel off. The rat hurried to help the mole and up and in the wagon. Up in the wagon. Hey, Toad, they cried. Come help us. Toad never answered. He sat in a trance with a happy smile on his face. His eyes were still fixed on the dusty spot ahead. Are you coming to help us, Toad? The rat demanded sternly. Glorious sight, murmured Toad. The real way to travel. The only way. A toot toot. Oh, stop being a fool, Toad, cried the mole. To think I never knew, Toad exclaimed. What are we going to do with him? Asked the mole. Nothing at all, replied the rat firmly. He's got a new craze. He'll continue like this for days now, in a happy dream, quite useless for anything. Come on, the wagon can't be fixed. We'll walk to town. What about Toad? We can't leave him. Oh, bother Toad, said the rat. They had not walked far, however, before Toad caught up with them. Now look here, Toad, said the rat. You'll have to go to the police station to complain. Police station? Sighed the dreamy-eyed Toad. Me complain of that beautiful car? Oh, Ratty. I give up, the rat said to the mole. When we get to town, we'll go straight to the railway station. With any luck, we'll join a train that'll get us back to the riverbank by tonight. Upon reaching the town, they left the horse at a stable and hired a man to recover the wrecked wagon. Eventually, a slow train landed them at a station not far from Toad Hall. Rat and Mole led a spellbound Toad to his home. Then they got into their boat and rowed down the river. That night, the rat and the mole dined within their own cozy riverside parlor. The following evening, the mole was sitting on the bank fishing when the rat came strolling along to find him. Heard the news? The rat asked. Toad went up to town by an early train this morning. He's ordered a large and expensive motor car. Chapter 3, The Wildwood. I have to pause here, kids, because we are at 43 minutes, and I want to make sure I don't go past the time where it cuts off on me. Give me just a moment to see where we are. And I will read chapter 3 and go from there. Chapter 3, The Wildwood. The mole had long wanted to meet the badger face to face, but whenever he mentioned his wish to the water rat, the rat would say, Badger'll turn up someday. Couldn't you invite him here? Asked the mole. He wouldn't come, replied the rat simply. Well then, supposing we visit him. He wouldn't like that at all, said the rat. Besides, he lives in the middle of the wildwood. You told me the wildwood was all right. But we won't go there today, replied the rat. It's a long way and Badger wouldn't be home. It's summertime. He'll be coming along. The mole had to settle for this, but the badger never came along. During the summer, the mole found that other things to keep him entertained. But when fall came, and then winter and cold, and frost and soggy mud kept them much indoors, the mole found himself thinking again of the mystery of the solitary gray badger. Excuse me. Yes? Yes, Mom. The quiche was really good. Yes, thank you. My mom made quiche. I apologize, guys. She just want to make sure I liked it. Okay, where was I, children? Okay, the solitary. Okay. Mole found himself thinking again of the mystery of the solitary gray badger. Okay. In the wintertime, the rat slept a great deal. During his short day, he sometimes scribbled poetry or did other small household tasks. This left the mole with a good deal of spare time on his hands. One afternoon, while the rat dozed in his armchair before the fire, the mole decided to go out by himself and explore the wildwood, and perhaps stop by and meet Mr. Badger. Since it was winter, the badger should be home. It was a cold afternoon when the mole slipped out of the warm parlor and into the open air. He scampered toward the wildwood. At first, there was nothing to alarm him. Twigs snapped, logs tripped him, but this was rather fun and exciting. Soon, however, all became very still. The trees seemed to close in on him. The sun began to set, draining away like floodwater. Then the faces began. He saw a little evil wedge-shaped face looking out from a hole. Then it vanished. Mole quickened his pace, telling himself he was imagining things. But from every hole, far and near, hundreds of faces with hard eyes popped out, flashing, then disappearing. Becoming fearful, he swung off the path and plunged into the darkening woods. Then the whistling began. It was behind him. He hurried forward. Then he heard whistling ahead of him. He paused, not knowing which way to go. Then the whistling rose up on both sides. He was alone and unarmed and far from any help. The night was closing in. Then the pattering began. He thought it was only falling leaves at first, but it grew into a pat, 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 pat of little feet. A rabbit came running toward him through the trees. "Get out of this, you fool, get out!" The mole heard the rabbit mutter as he disappeared down into a burrow. The pattering increased. In panic, Mole began to run. At last he ducked into a dark hollow of an old beech tree, hiding from the terror of the wildwood. Meantime, the rat dozed by the fireside until a coal slipped and he woke with a jump. "Molly!" he called. There was no answer. The rat got up and went into the hall. The mole's cap was missing from his peg, and his boots were gone. The rat left the house and looked over the muddy ground outside. There were the mole's footprints leading right to the wildwood. Without hesitation, the rat went back in, strapped a belt around his waist, shoved on a pair of pistols, picked up a thick club, and set off for the wildwood at a rapid pace. He hunted through the wood for an hour or more, calling out cheerfully, "Molly, it's Old Rat!" At last, to his joy, he heard a little answering cry. Guiding himself by the sound, he made his way to the foot of an old beech tree, and from out of the hole at its base came a feeble voice saying, "Ratty, is that really you?" The rat crept into the hollow of the tree. "Rat!" cried the mole. "I've been so frightened." "You shouldn't have come here, Mole," said the rat with a warm laugh. "We riverbankers, we hardly ever come here by ourselves." The mole was cheered by the rat's laughter. "We really must start for home," said the rat. "Dear Ratty," said the poor mole, I'm simply worn out with fear. You must let me rest here a while longer." "Oh, all right," said the rat. "Have at it." So the mole dropped off to sleep. When at last the mole awoke, the rat looked out the hole and said quietly, "Oh, bother." "What's up?" asked the mole. "Snow is up," replied the rat. Everything had been covered in white. "The worst of it is, I don't exactly know where we are. And now the snow makes everything look so different. We'll just have to do our best as we try to get back home." An hour or two later, they had lost all track of time. They they stopped and sat down on a fallen log. They were cold and wet, tired and aching, and bruised from falling down. There seemed to be no end to this wildwood and no beginning. "There's a sort of valley down there," said the rat. "We'll make our way down into that and find some sort of shelter out of the snow and wind." Once more they get, Once more they got on their feet and struggled down into the valley into the moonlight. Suddenly the mole tripped and fell forward on his face. "Oh, my leg!" he cried. "Let's have a look," said the rat kindly. "My, you've cut your shin." He rapped the cut. "I must have tripped over a stump." "No, it's too clean a cut," said the rat, thinking, "I wonder." Then the rat started digging and scratching and soon cried, "Hooray!" "What have you found?" asked the mole. "Come and see," said the delighted rat. The mole hobbled up to the spot. "Well," the mole said slowly, "a boot scraper. Why get excited over something you scrape your boots on? You Sorry, kids. "You dull-witted animal," the rat said, and began digging again. In a few moments, he had uncovered a very shabby doormat. "There! What does that tell you, you thick-headed beast?" exclaimed the rat. "Nothing whatever, you maddening rodent. Nothing whatever, you maddening rodent. Do you mean to say," cried the excited rat, "that this doormat doesn't tell you anything? Now look here, you. Scrape and scratch and dig and hunt round, especially if you want to sleep dry and warm tonight." The rat started digging with fury. The mole followed, but mostly because he thought his friend had gone snow crazy. After some 10 minutes hard work, the rat felt his club strike something that sounded hollow. In the side of a snowbank stood a solid-looking little door. Below the bell pull was a neatly engraved brass plate that read, "Mr. Badger." The mole fell backward on the snow. "Rat!" he cried. "You found the boot scraper, and then you found the doormat, then the door. All because you thought it through." "I suppose you're going to sit on the snow all night and talk," interrupted the rat. "Pull on that pull bell as I knock." While the rat attacked the door with his club, the mole sprang up at the bell pull, and from quite a long way off they could faintly hear a deep-toned doorbell. Chapter 4, Badger's Home. I'm going to pause here, kids, because I know it's not going to let me go on further, I don't think, for another 5 or 10 minutes while I read about the Badger's Home. So I'm going to pause here or end the live stream here and begin again on another one. Okay? Be right back.